Hello world, how's it going? Hope you guys are all doing great. If not, as always, I hope it gets better for you. And welcome to another Friday Night Live Q&A where you can ask me questions about aquarium keeping, whatever it may be, something about the channel, whatever you want to ask me. I'm here for you to help you guys out. And if I don't know the answer to something, we've got an amazing community that does. And I'm excited. I'm super excited about what's been going on around here. I'm in like so many projects right now, but they're all starting to connect as one. So super excited about that, and super excited to be here with you guys. I hope you guys are having a great week, and if not, like I mentioned, hope it gets better for you. Let me go ahead and get into live chat here. But we are in Lady LRB's plant room because we have been getting better internet and Wi-Fi in here, so I think that's where we're gonna stick to, is just around the house. And you know, we'll have videos of the fish barn and all that stuff coming out, like edited version wise. One day we do hope to get something better live in there. It's just a metal building, it's hard to deal with, and I just don't have the money to put into that until I really get this fish room done, which, oh man, so many things coming together. Which I'm actually building another rack, believe it or not. I'm in the midst of building another rack. Just got the wood, cut it up, hopefully get it painted tomorrow, and that should like completely get my inflow systems going. And as far as the channel, caught you guys up, and since I'm not seeing any questions, feel free to ask questions anytime. If not, I'm gonna ramble on until then. But as far as the channel, I did release 4 more edited videos for you guys, catching you guys up with what's been going on with the fish barn and the fish build for the fish room and all that stuff. And we've gotten a lot done. So if you haven't seen those, check them out and catch you up. But this week's been pretty crazy for me. Like, it's been a crazy week. I am absolutely exhausted, but I am glad to be here with you guys. Arca says, LRB, what's you breeding? So I've got mostly rainbow fish. There's not a whole lot that I'm like specifically like target breeding right now. I get a lot of fish that will like colony breed or community breed, like my self-in shiners, my dwarf neon rainbow fish, some other rainbow fish. And if I musical fish, my rice fish, and or some others, but a whole lot of stuff. There's tons of projects down the road. I've got a whole playlist of breeding videos. I've been doing this for a long time, so if you're looking for fish breeding videos, check out my fish breeding playlist, and I've got a ton of videos. William Admin says Corridors. So I used to do Corridors at the old house, where I had a ton of fish tanks there too. I recently moved, rebuild, but I don't really keep them anymore so much because with my no filter tanks, they kick up a lot of detritus and mulm, so they'll kind of dirty that tank. They don't always dirty a no filter tank, but it is high probability, if it's a sanded tank, that it will be harder to see the corridors in that tank because of it. Oh no, Lady Diane, sorry to hear that. I hope you get feeling better. It's never fun. Outside and Aquatic says, any tips? But if you do like corridors, I would definitely recommend just typing in LRB Corridorus, and there'll be a lot of Corridorus videos of rare ones too. I used to keep a lot of the rare ones. Outside, and if not, I've got fish room, like Jerry Jost Corey Castle fish room tour. Absolutely amazing. Same with Eric Bodrock when it comes to Corridors. Awesome fish room tours to check out. Outside and Aquatic says, any tips? I'm gonna start my first dirted tank this weekend. I'm gonna have to buy soil. Recommendations. I can't recommend what soil you buy. You do kind of got to be cautious about buying soil and using that. I mean, I personally would prefer something out of like the actual earth, dirt, because you don't know what's been added into it, whether it's excess nutrients, fertilizers, manure, or something like that. If you get them with manure in them, they can have ammonia spikes and stuff like that. Maybe somebody in the chat, I'm sure, has tried it, but maybe somebody has a recommendation. I'll keep my eye out for that too, so if I do see, I'll let y'all know that are listening. Need More Silver says, will different species of pistos breed together? That's a good question. I really don't know, and even if they did, I would not advise. So if there's naturally like quite a bit of one, like a certain type of fish, kind of like rainbow fish, and as you mentioned, the pistos and Corydoras, even if they could breed together, I would never recommend breeding them together. I think we got enough like antlers and guppies and bettas and stuff that get interbred. I don't know. That's kind of my own opinion though, because I don't know. I'm more of a naturalist when it comes to fish types. I'm really big into the conservation part, and like, you know, we gotta be able to keep these strains pure. That way, if they did ever need to be relocated or their waterways, something happened to it, and then it need to be replenished, there's some kind of backup there that hasn't been muddled up with crazy genetics, and you just don't know what's what anymore. Fish Dream says, Lucas, what would be the best plastic container to use indoors for guppy overflow tips? So, best plastic container to use indoors for guppy overflow? Like, you got too many guppies, so you need somewhere to put them. The Sterilites work pretty good. The trick is don't fill them up all the way. I mean, even with the like 10-gallon sale, I don't know, I think it may have just ended as far as Petco, the half off sale, but like a 10-gallon, it's not much more than one of those plastic totes. So I would just definitely make sure you rinse them out. But more heavy duty that tote is, the better. I prefer the clear ones. I use those actually in my quarantine, and they're just the Sterilite ones for my overflow or quarantine or whatnot. And if you do want to fill them up all the way, you can build a wood brace around them, or just put something around them to brace them that can take the pressure of the water that's going to push on the sides. If not, over time, it's just going to keep, like, it may look like it's holding well for a while, but over time, it's just going to expand and expand. And if you keep playing with it, like, it's going to break and you're going to have a bad time. Timbo, Tanking It Easy, says, question for Sarah, is it bad to replant snake plants and peace lilies in the fall and winter? That's what I've read, and mine desperately need to be replanted. So she's not around right now, but I don't know. That's a good question. I think if they're indoor plants, I wouldn't think it would matter too much, but maybe with the timing period. I do not know. I do not know. She may come in later on in the show, so we'll ask her if you're still around. Adam Lash says, what gets you excited about the hobby? Any big plans, breeding projects, or off-the-wall things that keep you going? Yeah, I mean, if you've been watching my channel, and, I mean, you're a member, there's a lot of things that are exciting me about the hobby right now. With the fish room build, what all I've got going on here. Oh, no wonder I don't have this on. It's like I know. Oh, there we go. I know it felt dark in here. Oh, that is way too bright, though. But, oh, just, you guys will get caught up here. You guys are about to see within, like, this month, like, how awesome things are really going to get. Because I have been working so hard for, shoot, a year and a half now, just to build this up. But all the different types of fish I'm going to be able to breed and keep and mess around with, and all the strains, and then the places I'll be visiting. There's just so many cool things that'll be coming up. So there is a lot of big plans. And there's always off the wall things that I'm doing. That's how this whole channel got built up. That's why this channel's also not that built up too, because a lot of it's so off the wall. A lot of people don't understand it. Earthling 2989 says, I've got some fish coming out of quarantine and I'm gonna take down the tub. How do you disinfect the filter and everything else inside? Thanks. So if there was nothing wrong with those fish, I wouldn't even bother with disinfecting the filter. It'll kind of naturally be fine. But if there was something, then it really depends on what it was that I would be like, oh, maybe you need to go to something extreme. But even if it was like ick or something, you can kill that with temperature while the filter's still in it. And just run the tank hot enough that it can't even live. Because I think it's over 86, it cannot survive. So keep your tank over 86 for a month. And then you wouldn't have to worry about that problem. I don't know what problems you would have to really be like, unless it was like some internal parasite like Calamanus worms or something like that, that I would actually be like, yeah, you need to throw out the media, like full on clean it out and start it anew. But as long as nothing was wrong with it, then I would definitely just let it be. Because the dirtier that filter is, actually the better it works. Believe it or not, believe it or not. Brandy Rutledge, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. I appreciate that, Brandy. Much love to you. Says, looks like I'm gonna have to relocate my 3-4 foot rack system to my house from now ex-house. Gonna have to chip away at it for a few weeks, I guess. I need a truck. Oh my God, sorry to hear that, Brandy. If I was closer, I'd definitely give you a hand. That sounds like it'll be a little trip, and truck could make it really quick for you. I'm not sure what size tanks you have on those. But, I don't know if you have somebody who can help you carry them too. If they're not too big, sometimes I'll just leave the substrate in it. And I just carry it a little bit. Sorry to hear you gotta move all that. Alright. So Geo Tankmate says, have you ever used vitamin C to remove chlorine? I tried it and my liquid chlorine test did not read any chlorine. I've never heard of such a thing, so that's a new one for me. I've never heard of such a thing. Luckily, I don't have to deal with chlorine anymore. William Almond says, what do you do about duckweed comb? So duckweed, actually, what I'll do is I'll remove most of what I can with like a cup. That way it like siphons into the cup where it just like the water tension pulls it into whatever cup, and get as much as I can out of it. And then I will fill it up with water again, gently, because you do want to watch getting the duckweed back into like your plants, because if you're just like hammering that water in there and that duckweed gets all entangled with your plants, then you're going to battle it for a lot longer. But what I'll do after I get the mass of it out and have the water back filled up is I'll kind of blow it all over to one corner and then start that process again. And then for like a week or two, I will double, triple check the top every day just to see if any pops up. And I never have duckweed. I don't have to really deal with it. I actually got one little tiny container of duckweed that I keep, and I feed it to my goldfish every now and then. Let's see. Scroll. Gary Steen says, looks like you're doing axolotl conservation. I never knew they originated from Mexico and are endangered. Yeah, their natural waterway has just been slowly urbanized more and more. And actually, one of the documentaries that I seen on them for being like endangered is one of the ones that kind of motivated me to get the axolotls as well with my son. And because after he mentioned he wanted them, I had to make sure that I was able to keep them like more naturally. So of course, if you're trying to keep something, and I hope more people keeping aquariums start thinking this way, but I know it's really easy to impulse buy that fish. I've done it a lot. But if you can research that fish before you buy it and look at its actual natural waterways and where they come from and what it looks like, then you can get more of an idea of how their setup should be, how they could truly live, opposed to what a lot will say online as far as information. Because now there is enough like YouTube videos and people going out and taking video of aquarium fish in their natural habitats, more that you can find that kind of stuff. And you got to think about the habitat or place that they come from as well. Like, for instance, you'll get stats for like temperatures and or the type of water that they're kept in or maybe collected in. You got to think that that was at the time of whatever season they were in. So most places still, even if they're close to the equator, there's some seasonalities to it. And same with the weather, it's just not even temperature. It could just be wetness or dryness. And of course, if it's drier, you're gonna have more saturated water, and if it's been raining a lot, it's going to be more diluted with fresh water, which can have more acidic effects. Same if it's part of a flooded forest opposed to the actual canal or river. A few things to think about with getting your fish and animals. Yeah, but that one video for the axolotls definitely motivated me into like knowing they would be all right in my setups, because I mean they were in the muddiest, dirtiest water. There was trash in it. It looked terrible. I'm like, well, shoot, if they can live in that, then I ain't gonna have any problem with my tanks with my no filter. Melville says, are a pair of German blue rams okay in a 10-gallon? I moved them out of my 29 as they were giving my male killie hell protecting their first spawn, which they chose not near the bottom. So yeah, a 10-gallon will be good enough for the German blue rams. They don't need a whole lot of space. And they kind of like those tighter spaces too for breeding and whatnot. Scroll. Oh, well those, yeah, 29 can be a bit heavy. But you could always get some buckets for your dirt to put it in there and make sure. So if you're moving to aquariums and you've got aquariums already established and you want to take them somewhere, I would definitely recommend putting your substrate in 5-gallon buckets. That way you can just put it back into your tank once you get it relocated. And it's good to keep some water in it. So you might want some lids for your buckets as well. You don't need it much water, just keep it wet enough that it stays biologically active. And that way whenever you do go set it back up, you can have already cycled aquarium for your fish to add in. And always double check and test the water at the new place to make sure of any differences as far as like chlorines or whatnot. Guess there's not a whole lot to worry about. Brandy Rutledge asks, do you have a suggestion for the protecting my LVT flooring from the metal rack legs? So, I mean, you can get some of that fiber reinforced board, which is really thin, like hard plastic. That way, if it put any pressure or scratching on anything, it would go onto that and distribute it some. So something of that sort. I mean, you don't want anything too like thick or tall, or then it can cause more imbalances. But as long as it's something thin and hard, you could even use mending plates that they use to connect wooden stuff for like decks and whatnot. And then maybe put like a little cloth underneath the mending plate or something. Doily. Mel Wool says, I pulled the German blue rams eggs before they hatched on day 2. Do you think they will breed again? I have them in a better setup for now. And the 10 planted more smoothly stone, no bottom feeders. So they hatched on day 2. Do I think they'll breed again? It may take them a little while, but it's really hard to tell with fish because they all have different personalities. But more likely, yes, they will breed again. As long as they're comfortable and they're getting fed well, they'll definitely breed again. You just got to give them time. They're not going to do it right away because they got to figure out what just happened. They got to take their time to feel comfortable again. And, yeah, but they'll breed again for you. Toothpick Dinosaur says, have you looked into cell phone repeaters? Do like 4 or 5G? So we did have like a hotspot kind of like repeater thing, but it still didn't work very well, even if we had it like right next to the window and then I tried to bounce off of it. It still didn't do well because it's getting the connection between the metal, like, I don't know if I had like a repeater on one side of the window and then one right on the other side, but then it'd have to be outside, so that would be the problem. Because getting that just straight connection through. But supposedly they're supposed to be doing fiber. But at least luckily we still have somewhere decent that we're not Lego Lucas anymore, or Lego LRB. Brandy Rutledge says, axolotls are heavily used in research. My local college has a room full of them to research genetics because they can regenerate legs. That's really cool. That's really cool that even at your local college that they have a research facility for them. But it is wild, all the things that science has studied axolotls for. And their ability to regenerate is pretty amazing. Eel live and brun for 150 years. They don't care. 150-year-old eel. Is that what I just heard? Male Wool says, will the rams breed again? Since you pulled their eggs, they were caring for them. Okay, yeah. Like I mentioned, yeah, they will. Need More Silver says, what do you think about alkalinity buffers? I have super soft water that caused my pH to drop super low, which is very nice for my cichlids, but I'm not sure that my plants like it. So your pH really doesn't play a whole lot of role into what's going on. But with the alkalinity buffers, what they do add, especially if I don't know, some may be different, but for the most part, they add mineralization to your aquarium. And that's always a good thing for pretty much any fish and or plants. So that soft water has the capacity to break down that mineralization that you put in there, which aka the buffer that is usually calcium, magnesium, those sorts of things that will I will say it may seem like it raises the pH, but it's not really raising the pH. What it's actually doing is kind of making the water thicker. But as it breaks down and the acidity breaks it down, it will thin back up. That's how you got to kind of think about acidity and alkalinity and how it mixes. And as the acidity breaks all that down, the plants have a better and easier chance to uptake it. That's why if you got super hard water, it'll just build up, build up, build up, because there's no acidity to break it down. But as soon as you would start using like RO water in a tank that had been filled with hard scale calcium water for like years, you could actually see that stuff break down over time as that soft water ate it, as well as the tank would eat it in return. So it all kind of cycle through and with each other. It's pretty cool actually how it all works. A lot of people don't really look at a lot of people, especially here on YouTube and just in the community of teaching water chemistry, they usually look at like sides of it, a few sides of it, instead of it as like a whole and how it really interreacts with each other. But that would be the best way to think about water when trying to worry about mineralization, hardness, softness, all that stuff. Because a lot of fish don't care as long as they're getting some kind of mineralization if it is too soft. And then once again, if it's too hard, some fish can't uptake anything because, well, it's not getting broken down. Some fish don't care, or they can scavenge and eat it too. So say if there is soft water but a hard material like calcium, lime rock, something like that, and fish are grazing on it, they can actually, or put in their diet, they can actually get that mineralization from that. That can just break the whole ideal of what we know about how we can keep what fish in what, just because they're ingesting it. Same with shrimp. And Chris Pinto, thank you so much for the awesome super chat. Very helpful right now because I am trying to scrounge up some money for paint, trying to get this rack build. It's like one of my last racks, at least my last rack, and for the water change system to get done. If I do add any, that's going to be extra down the road because I do got a little new space in there, which I will be showing you guys here in the future. But he says, Bro Tato, life's a garden, dig it for sure, Bro Tato. I couldn't agree more, man. You gotta live it while you live it. You know, life is for the living. You gotta dig it. It's what you make out of it, for real. And what's that old saying? You reap what you sow, or you even get the fruits of your labor. All those good old sayings. But thank you so much for the support. Really appreciate it. Which actually brings me to the website. I probably should have said this earlier in the video if I was a better sales dude. But on the website, like I'm pretty much like I'm hooking it up. 10% off, free heat packs, and free plant on orders. So I'm just giving stuff away. And I do got some fish in stock. Quite a few plants, shrimp back in stock. Not many blue dreams left. And they may need a cool down here, we'll see. But yeah, get them while they're hot. And I could use it too for this project. So I'm so close to getting it done. I know I needed like a few more strainers and things. It's all of this and that's that always add up. And not to mention like the little PVC and like adapter connections, the prices on them things anymore, it's ridiculous. All right. Scroll. Peter says, I just started a new tank. The Vallisneria I just planted are melting away. Should I just leave the dying leaves in the tank for the shrimp and let them help start the nitrogen cycle? So, yeah, since it is a newer tank, I would actually recommend you leaving the leaves in there. Now, as time goes by and it does cycle out, And if you do get some melting plant leaves in the future, then I would recommend taking them out, because then at that point they would be feeding the algae. But since it is a new tank, like you mentioned, I think you're on the right path, the right kind of thinking for it. Let it stay in there, let it help feed the microbiology that's trying to get established in there. Because that's really what you want more than anything, is a nice healthy biological system to where all the microorganisms are just doing what they need to be doing. And also just look out for new growth for it. If it's got new growth on it, I would not worry about moving it. And that's kind of a plant that doesn't like to be moved around much. And sometimes it can take a little while to get established after it's been moved, but once it does, it can go bananas. Let's see, Mel Wool says they didn't hatch, question mark, question mark. What didn't hatch? Yeah, blue rams. They don't take long to hatch. I think they're only like 48 hours if I remember right. Probable cause clause YouTube says, what's the best way of knowing your LED aquarium lights are strong enough for plants? And how many hours of lights do the aquarium plants need? So as far as the lighting period, they can go, I've seen it between 5 to 10. And I think that kind of depends on how good of a light you have. So if you have a full spectrum light, you're going to get much better results out of that than, say, if you had just like a basic like yellow tint or even a 6500K. If you get the red, green, and full blue spectrum in there, then that will do more for your plants than really the strength of your plants or the power or the lumen power, because of what it's actually absorbing. And often we actually overlight a lot of our tanks, and why people deal with algae a lot. So keep that in mind. And then also, when thinking about that, you want to think about what kind of plants you're keeping too. So if you're trying to grow like a Nubius bush farm, you obviously do not need as powerful light as, say, if you're trying to do some rare stem plants or Rotalias or Luigias. Or if you're keeping massive biomasses of like guppy grass and pearlweed and stuff like that. Also, if you've got layers of plants, say if you got floating plants, you're going to get shading from that too. So maybe you want more powerful light to get through those floating plants. Also, the depth of your tank makes a big difference too. These CFLs actually that are right above me, those things, I tell you what, actually worked really well too, because they actually put off a lot of radiation. And back in the day, we used to use these high output like T5 fluorescent bulbs, which threw out tons of radiation. And the plants grew a lot different back then than what they grow like now. Like, they would just absolutely blow up like full on banana style. Like, it was crazy how big and lush they would get compared to what they grow underneath these LEDs, because the LEDs don't have the radiation like the CFLs. So I think that actually plays a big role into plants as well. But the cost as far as electricity does play a big factor in that. It's a big reason why I don't do the T5s. Then you had to constantly change out the bulbs, and they lose their power. You can see it in the tank. And you have to refreshen the bulbs every so often. Sorry if I miss anybody's questions. I'm trying to do my best here. Jason says, I noticed you use substrate debris from your yard. Is there anything to be aware of when doing that? I mean, as long as you're not like really chucking garbage in there, but honestly, I think even if you did chuck some garbage in there, you'd probably be all right as long as it's biologically sound. Doesn't have like pesticides or chemicals on it. But pretty much everything that you see like within your yard, like the leaf litter, all that other like stems, weeds, stuff like that, like they fall into waterways all the time, or the waterways will flood over it and it all becomes part of the system. So yeah, not really anything to really worry about. I would definitely recommend grabbing that kind of dirt and stuff instead of from a dry area instead of from a wet area. Then there are some things to be aware and concerned about, because things do like to live in the mud and lay eggs in wet and dry seasons. And Chris, oh my goodness, Chris Pinto for the $20 super chat. Says, go get some paint, homie. I got you. Hashtag Fish Jesus, bro. Much love. Much love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm definitely, that helps take the stress off for sure. Just knowing you guys have my back, like I'm always just like, I'm skinning it by my teeth every week. Just pay for that next piece of the project. So, I mean, it is much, much, much appreciated. One day, a lot of that's going to turn around. And it's going to be good for everybody. So, thank you all who have helped me get here. But, Chris, you have helped me for a long, long time. Alright, Mel Wolf says the eggs were fertile, but I pulled before the hatch and switched them to a tin with just a pair in it. So if you switch them with the eggs, I probably would have switched them without the eggs. Honestly, I would have just snagged that killifish up and threw him in the 10-gallon. That probably would have been your best bet. That way the rams would not have to get more comfortable again. They would already had everything figured out how they were doing it. They may, though, from you catching that killifish, they may be like, oh, I don't know if this is a safe spot, and then they try to eat them, and then they would just try again after they felt more comfortable. So it all kind of plays a role on how the fish takes to your actions into the tank. And sometimes they'll do one thing, sometimes they'll do another. Just like cats and dogs, you know, if you're like testing them in their environment, you know. So yeah, I don't know, it'll be a gamble. You may get lucky and they just want to be good parents and they may just be alright. Kurt Browning, thank you, brother. Appreciate you, Kurt, for the $10 super chat. Happy Friday and happy holidays. Well, happy Friday and happy holidays to you as well. I cannot believe it's already December. I'm thanking God that it hit 80 degrees today. Oh, man. I'm so glad to be in Florida now. But thank you, Kurt. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Timbo taking it easy. Lady LRB. He had a question about snake plants. Did you hear about that? Whether they can be... So can they? So you can propagate them in the winter? It doesn't matter. Snake plants and peace lilies. See, I remembered that all the way from back yonder in the history of like maybe 20 minutes ago on the live stream. But yes, Timbo, you can. Let's see. She's doing some oil pulling, so she can't really talk right now. I don't know, she swishes it in her mouth for like half an hour. I don't get it. Elaine says, how old are your rope fish? I came across a video that said they don't breed till they are 15 years old, but I don't believe everything on the internet. So I'm with you. I don't believe everything on the internet either, but I don't know. Somebody's definitely gatekeeping the information on rope fish and breeding, but I don't think it's 15 years. Ain't no way. And I would say mine are probably like, I don't know, it's hard to tell how old they are when you get them too. But I've had them for like maybe 4 I think 4 years, maybe longer, 5. So I don't know. Soon though, I do plan on redoing the ropefish tank and like really getting it displayed out to where maybe it'll be more suitable for them to breed in than what I got them in now. Even though I'm kind of surprised I haven't like got that one like trickle spawn or something to come out of there. Cause they literally just live and sleep in a huge mat of pearlweed and algae, and there's rocks all over the place. Jason says, what lights do you use with all the tanks in your fish room? So most of them all have these Sunco 4-foot 6500K shop lights. That's mostly because they're like 20 bucks a piece. I didn't have much money to use for lighting. A lot of my aquariums just don't even have lights on them. And I grow the plants from the ambient light from the other tanks. And then I do got some like the cheaper aqua neats that you get from eBay. I would like to set up, I wish Sunco, or I could find a shop like that had the actual like red, green, blue spectrum to it. The reason why I like the shop lights is you can piggyback them, which means you can connect them into each other. So when I'm doing those racks, I can connect one into another. Like I could wrap the whole rack within just one outlet, opposed to having lines just all over the place and trying to run extension cords and just be madman. So it's one thing I do like about the shop lights. So I think I'll use those for like more of my braiding and my easier plants like pearlweed, guppy grass, Taiwan lily. All the plants I'm pretty much keeping now. But when I do get into like more of the stems, which I like, a lot of the stems you can grow with those shop lights, but you can grow them a lot better with proper lighting. But at the same time, I got to be careful about that too, because say if I did grow all these plants in like T5s and then I sell it to somebody who has LEDs, that plant isn't going to do as well in somebody's tank that just has LEDs compared to what it was doing in that T5 tank. Especially if there's CO2 in there and then say the other person doesn't. So that's why I try to offer like the free easy plans and keep it simple for a lot of people, because a lot of people, I don't know, there is those other people who are on to the next level of keeping those harder to keep plants, those stem plants and ones that need a little more love. But for the most part, a lot of people are just looking for something that'll grow and look good, and they don't have to mess with too much. So that's why I try to not like baby my plants and do that. Because then at the back end, you're like probably going to have to answer emails like, why are my plants doing good, you know? And it's like you get stuck doing that forever. So anytime I can take out those kind of things from the backside of it, all the better. And really, I mean, as far as operations, shoot, we don't get a whole lot of any of that because of me not babying my stuff. It will live in your aquariums. Because by the time they get to you, you guys are going to baby them. And then by then, they'll be doing awesome for you. Alright. Peter says Home Depot has a heavy-duty rack for $179. Supposedly each shelf can hold 800 pounds. What do you think? So if you do go for that, keep in mind, I think 8.9 pounds is what a gallon of water weighs. I would just round that up to 10 to be safe. So whatever you're putting on it, think about that. And I don't know if you want to quite go to the max and keep it on the max for a long term. And or if you do get those heavy duty racks, and I've had one of those Gladiator racks, and it worked pretty good, but the thing, you want to get like a piece of plywood, and you're going to want to paint the plywood because odds are you're going to flood a tank at some point, and you want it to repel from the plywood, and you don't want to get like particle board to stick it on. So make sure you have a nice hard surface to make a shelf out of, because you can't just put it on that metal wiring. A lot of that will come from. Like, that weight's got to be distributed, especially if you're doing like side-by-side tanks. That tank's not going to line up just on that rack perfectly. So you are buying that rack, but then again, you're still going to have to make shift shelves. But if you don't have a whole lot of like drill and screwing aptitude, then it is a good option to save you some time. But 2x4s are pretty cheap. If you do want to learn how to build a rack, I've got a lot of rack building videos. I've built, I don't know how many rack building videos here. I'm building a quick one this week. Hold is it 12, 20 longs? We'll go 4 high. But it's gonna have 6 shelves because I gotta have 2 shelves for Lady LRB's plants to match up. But it took me 20 2x4s to do that. That's for the shelves, sides, and everything. And then 4 2x10. So 10 footers. That's how tall the racks are gonna be. So you could probably do it with 24. You can do a rack like that with just 24 2x4s, which is at $4 a piece, around $100. And then you got to get plywood too. So you'd still be getting plywood for that metal rack. It would actually be cheaper for you. Well, you got screws though. You're probably going to spend about $40 in the screws. And then you got paint. That's going to cost you about another, let's say, $70. So I would say it's about the same, actually. Pretty close to the same price range. Oh, here, Henry Figaro says, Peter, you can buy one in Sam's Club for $200 and each shelf holds 2,500 pounds per shelf. Well, that's just more power. Might as well go for that one. Because that ain't, if you're already going to spend the $179, what's another 21 to get something with twice as much? It's like, are you going to get the V6 or V8? I'd definitely pick the V8 every time if I could. Gary Steen says, what's the best way to trim cribs? Every time they don't like it, but outgrow the tank. So, cribs are a bit difficult to trim, because they do not like to be fussed with like that. So, you can't like just, I mean, you can cut them and they will grow back, but you're gonna like start from scratch. So it's with cribs, it's like a all or nothing. You can't trim them to like, hey, you're only gonna grow here, especially if they're like already so old. They only know to like go farther and farther up. So you can't like really like sculpt them like you can some plants. But you can cut them, but they're gonna grow from nothing again. It's actually in their nature to melt back every year during winter times and then come back. That's why they don't like getting their roots cold. It signals them to pucker in and hibernate. All right. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Will Lady LRB ever do a live stream on plants? That's a good question. Will she ever make videos again? Will she make shorts? Will she... I don't know, Lady LRB. Where is she? I think she's still swishing coconut oil somewhere. Oh my God, are you really? How long do you gotta do that for? Oh my. Seems excessive. Let's see. Mel Wool says, I moved the Rams instead so they would have the tank to themselves and wouldn't need to chase anyone else off. I have others in 29. Okay, yeah, if there's a bunch more fish in there, I see why you would just take them out. I figured if it was just the killifish, then it's different. Timbo Tanking It Easy says, Beamworks has worked well for me. Yes, Beamworks does work well. They're a lot like the Aquaneat and Feller lights you get from eBay. Just, I think they got a different sticker on them. That's how a lot of those are actually made. They're all, a lot of them are the same lights, just different stickers. Let's see. Cameron Carter says, what's your pick for nano schooling fish for 29-gallon plated tank? I mean, rummy nose is like the biggest. Rummy nose and cardinals are like the biggest classics for any like schooling type. Red eyes are really cool too. A lot of those tetras, they shoal more than they school. But there is a lot of them that I would be like, oh, these are really cool to like group up, but or what are they? The silver tips? I think those look pretty neat too if you can get them to school more. Timbo Taking It Easy says, I need the same thing and to use. They're talking plants, drainage and soil. Chris Pinto, any black bar endlers? So I don't have the regular wild black bar endlers. I have the lime green endlers, which is pretty much a black bar endler, just bred to have more green in them. So I could sort of have them, but I don't. Got the enhanced version of them. What's the best fish for sliders? Earl's Reptiles? I don't know. You'd probably want to even breed and raise up your own fish, honestly. Guppies probably would not be a bad choice. It'd be better than getting the feeder fish at the fish store that God knows what you're going to stick into your water column and your turtle can have issues with. But I think a lot of those will eat just vegetation too. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've had a turtle. I used to have a ton, like all kinds of different turtles when I was a kid. Box turtles, painted turtles, soft shell turtles, whatever we could collect or find out wandering around. All right, I am at the bottom of the chat. So if you got a question, that's where I'm at. We've got like, I don't know, 7 minutes left here. And it's ice cream time for me. I think Lady LRB laid down. I hope she don't fall asleep. Brandy Rutledge says, LRB, are fork-tail blue eyes easy to breed and raise? Is there a demand for them? I would say there is a demand for them. Like, are you talking about, it depends on which ones you're talking about on how easy they are to raise. Some of those do require some salinity to breed, but if they're not like the Cyanodorialis or something like that, which is one that keeps the salinity, they can be easy to breed to where they'll breed in soft or hard water. And a lot like breeding rainbow fish. But there is always a demand for them for sure. Cameron Carter says, if I try to continue a line of wild endlers, would it hurt to use a yellow cobra female endler that never been pregnant to recreate the line over time? That's kind of a toss-up. Really kind of a toss-up because you are kind of muddling the wild strain and line of it. But there is a chance that you could breed down the road that out of it. Red and yellow is more recessive, so it is a little harder to get out of the genetics. But you could over time, but honestly, you would just be better off buying some wild endlers and saving you a lot of time and just redoing it. Or just, because obviously you must just have like the male and no female. Maybe you can find like a trio somewhere, or that way you'll end up with 2 pairs. Or maybe find a friend that has the wild type that you're looking for. Do some trades. There's a lot of ways to go about it. But I would say that would be the long road to go about if you were to do that. Root says, do you plan on adding more varieties of endlers to your stock in the future? So yes, actually the endlers that are the rack that I'm building right now is actually for my endlers. For more endler tanks. Which I do got endlers running and going. It's just I'm hoarding right now. I've got a hoard. Soon I will unleash the hoarding more once things are more organized. And then I'll just share. I'll let the cup overfloweth to you all. Timbo Tanking It Easy says 350, 400 TDS, 21 GH, 16 KH. Any tips to make moss and stem plants do better for me? So the mineralization is there. The best thing you can do, honestly, is regular water changes. Mosses and stem plants love water changes. They love the reoxygenation of those water changes. And then if you can either cut your tap water so it comes out at 400, and maybe do like half RO and half your tap water, then that puts it at around 200, which adds it and puts it in more of the neutral range. That can soften it up and break down the mineralization that's coming from your tap water. That would just feed your plants like crazy. It's actually what I used to do at my old house. So at my old house, we had that 350, 400 TDS. And I had this big RO machine. And what I would do is I'd lower the water down. Like I was doing 50%, 40% water changes. And I'd fill up 25 or 20 with the soft water. And then I'd hit it with the harder water. That way the harder water would actually sink through the softer water and it would blend better that way, instead of like the soft water sitting on top of the hard water. Because you got to think about it in densities as well. That harder water is going to be thicker and more denser than that softer water. So that softer water, say if in a no filter, it could actually take more time to mix if I would put it on top opposed to putting it on the bottom of the water change cycle. So I hope that helps you. Gary Steen says, what is the best container for a large turtle indoor pond? I mean, always bigger the better, and just if you can give them somewhere to like a sunbathing lamp or something like that, I think that's really crucial and important if you're actually going to keep a turtle. Where they got a landing or a log that they can get on and just kind of bathe themselves and eat some fresh veggies and just vibe out. Vinci 4Fish 98 says, looking forward to getting your amphibolian volcanum killifish tomorrow. They are super rare as I couldn't find them anywhere else. Yes, they are hard to find. And if you guys, any of you guys are into killifish as well, I got the killifish on the website. I probably should have said that earlier when I was talking, when it was more pertinent, and you guys were probably listening instead of the end of this video, but it is what it is. I got quite a few more pairs of those, so they won't last long. They're always limited supply. But Vincey, thank you so much for the support. And I can guess what your name is too, since Vince. It's pretty easy. I do remember seeing your order, and thank you for the support. Gary Steen says maybe cattle feeding trough for a large turtle. Yeah, maybe. They're kind of narrow. You would want something with more surface area where they can kind of get around. I would say something more round. That way you can put an island in the middle, but not have to worry about them climbing out. Because if you get something narrow and say you got to put a log for them to bathe on, but then they're too close to the edge, then you got to worry about them getting out. And you got something round, you just make that island. Timbo Tanking It Easy says, is that the moss to do well in my Neo tanks? They wouldn't like that neutral water, correct? No, the Neos, since you are splitting, you still got that hardness, that water going in there. They actually do like that. My Neos went bananas for that kind of water. They will like it. They will like it. Because what's actually happened too over time in your tank with that heart of water is there's a lot of it, that mineralization within your substrate in places that you don't see, that it has fossilized over, and it will break down as things soften up. And then the shrimp can actually eat off that too. Earl's Reptile says, how do I make my water dark like yours have a natural look, but not using witchcraft or anything? I don't know, kind of hard to do without the voodoo. But you can use leaf litter, any like dried up botanicals, softer driftwoods. And then really the biggest trick is keeping it like that though, because if you do water changes, you're obviously going to saturate it or dilute it each time. And the botanicals and leaf litter will eventually run out of their capabilities to do that. So you could just add to it. Some people, you could even, like, so say now in the fall time, there's tons of leaves out. Oak leaves, maple leaves, elm leaves, all that stuff. Say if you did want that black water experience, but you didn't want all the botanicals in your tank, you could season the water first in a barrel or something. Just stick a bunch of those leaves in and then add the black water in when you want. They do have black water extract, which is essentially the same thing, but it really doesn't, for the bang for the buck, it really doesn't do much for you. So you're better off just making your own. And Ray's Fish Room says, hi Lucas, do you deworm your fish coming in from your outdoor tanks? I find my guppies have worms coming in after summer from my tubs. Should I just leave them be? Okay, thanks Ray. So, I mean, if you're finding them to have worms, you should take care of them. I haven't really seen anything. I haven't brought anything back in from here, at least. At the old house, I never really had any issues with anything coming back in. I think being in a city setting, there was less chance for things to get in. But being out here in the country may be a different story, but I have not brought anything in from out there yet because I'm not quite in the space for my quarantine to like really be doing anything crazy like that yet. And I'm kind of testing the Florida winters on a few fish out there. which they're all doing great. It actually got close to freezing the other day. Oh, it did get to freezing. Sarah said 31 it got to. And all the fish bounced back because it's like 80 degrees now. It was only for like a day. It got really cold. We don't really have a winter here, but we have cold spells. Cold spells don't really bother the fish. It's if it was like winter. LRB Aquatics grilled cheese or PB&J. So I used to be a huge sandwich person. Absolutely love sandwiches. Now I don't eat hardly any bread at all. But if I had to pick, honestly, I don't really care for either one of them, to be honest. If I'm going to eat a sandwich, I want something like a big old sub with all the meats and everything on it. Yeah. Alright. Oh, and somebody did trespass on our property the other day. I had to hold that dude at gunpoint. So I'm still kind of like getting over that. I don't know. I wasn't going to share that, but I feel like I had to just get that out of my chest. Like, that happened. He was all drugged out. Oh, excuse me. And, so I heard some talking. I'm like, what the heck? It's like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I go hunting. So, I go hunting when I hear this kind of stuff. And I start playing Stealth Rangers or some shit. And there he is. He didn't even know what was going on. He was harmless as can be, luckily. Thank God. But that's probably, if I seem like I was a little off at the beginning and stuff, you know, it's been, like I said, it's been a long week for me. There is things like that happen that, to me in this, like, I don't normally share that stuff, but it was a weird experience for me. Really, really weird experience for me. But thank God it all turned out all right. All right, man, there is still a lot of questions in here. I kind of feel bad about leaving you guys to eat ice cream, so I'll do a few more. But that ice cream really is calling my name. Cameron Carter says, the store I bought the wild endlers from collected them from a small stream in Venezuela on one of his vacations. Do you know of any breeders' websites that I could use to find more? The store I bought the wild endlers that I collected them from a small stream. That's tough. So what I would do is I would kind of like reverse search them, as far as I would type in wild endlers for sale, and then I would go into the image section of Google or whatever browser you're using to search, and then try to see if you can match your fish up with what you're looking for from that. And then you may have a better chance of finding a breeder or a website for it. Because with a lot of those wild types, especially if it's a rare, like, one, then it could be a little more difficult to find the right one. Brandy Rutledge says, would it be good to put young CBDs and baby peacock gudgeons to grow out in the same tank to kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Compatible? I don't know, because sometimes the gudgeon temperaments could probably get them in trouble. CBDs are pretty chill for the most part. Maybe. You may be able to. They kind of hang around the same, like, bottom of the tank and stuff, though. So there might be some competition. I would definitely just keep an eye out on them. But they're not, like, real aggressive fish either. I wish I had the tank for the red chin pancheks. What tank size would be best for them? I would go with like a 20 long or something, because they don't need a lot of depth, but more surface area is good. Anything bigger is just even better. Would water out of my dehumidifier work to cut my tap water? You can use that. Just make sure it's clean. Like, Doesn't have a whole lot of biofilm and stuff that is in it. Root, I have multiple female inlers that breed and produce L. tigris. If I were to put in a different type of male in it and bred with that female, would it produce that type or would I get an L. tigris? So that really all depends on the genetics and how the dice gets rolled. So it really depends. They definitely would not be wild anymore though. It would be designer. Keat Leash, Shrimp Jesus says, I got a question about filtration. Does a 3-gallon require a filter? It will be heavily planted. So really any size aquarium doesn't require a filter. 240 3-gallon, 1.5 liter containers I got. No. I mean, if you're doing water changes especially, they become like more your filtration. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to hop off here. I appreciate you all for the support and for watching. And it's Ice Cream 30. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Till next time. Oh, wait. Before I do hop off. So as far as videos coming, I'm not gonna have any edited videos this week, but what I think I'll do is I'll try to hop on and do more lives this week. That way I see you guys still got a lot more questions going on, and I'll try to give you guys more opportunity here on that. So I'm gonna try to shoot for Sunday because tomorrow is like my day to really kick butt to get things done. And I'm so excited to share with what's been going on. But yes. I'm gonna hop off here. You guys will see what's been going on here coming up sooner and later. Till next time, everybody, peace. Have a great one. So sneaky.
It says LRB, aka Loaded Revolver, baby.
It was a CZ. It was actually one of those tournament ones.